What up, all my fight fans? UFC 286 is just around the corner, and guys, we got ourselves one hell of a main event. We got a trilogy fight. We got ourselves the champion, Leon Edwards, taking on the challenger, the now challenger, Kamaru Usman. That actually sounds very weird saying that because Kamaru Usman has been the champ for quite some time. He has been the champ since before COVID, you guess you could say. Basically been the champ since 2019 when he beat Tyron Woodley. Guy's been a champ for quite some time, but Kamaru Usman lost that fight, lost that championship when he fought Leon Edwards back in August, where he got head kicked. In my opinion, the comeback of the year, the KO of the year, the upset of the year. Leon Edwards took that strap and became the new welterweight champion. Guys, again, like I said, this is a trilogy fight. These guys have fought in before. They fought in way back in the day. This was actually Leon Edwards' last loss. I believe he's on a 10-fight winning streak now. He has fought a lot of guys, and Kamaru Usman's fought a lot of guys in between that then and now. So yes, it was actually a one-sided decision for for Kamaru Usman. Leon Edwards completely lost that fight, and then he worked his way back, got a rematch, and got the victory and got the title. So now here we are in the main event. Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, or of course Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. You got to put the champ first. So guys, let's break this down. Let's see how it's gonna go. I am super excited. I am super pumped for this. This is gonna be a very exciting fight, guys. I really do feel like it. I mean, you know what? Scratch that. It actually could be a very great fight, or can actually be a very boring fight. Because let's face facts. That second fight wasn't like a back and forth war. It wasn't like Kamaru Usman, what we're used to seeing him in. We've seen him in those two fights with Kobe Covington and that crazy knockout over Jorge Masvidal in the second fight, and even that knockout over Gilbert Burns. I guess you could say that Jorge Masvidal first fight was a little bit boring, but at the end of the day, it was a very short notice fight. So with this one, Leon Edwards, he's a very technical fighter. He's like almost like a technical kickboxer. He does have some really good grappling, really good ground and game and such like that. But his striking is just phenomenal. He's very much on point regarding that. He still can get caught. He still can, possibly take, a beating here and there. I believe when we remember a couple fights ago when he fought against Nate Diaz, remember, he was actually winning that entire fight. He was winning all 5 rounds up until that last minute of that fight. He got caught. So Leon Edwards can get caught and he can get hurt. But like I said, his striking is just phenomenal. But we all know Kamaru Usman, he has great striking too, but just doesn't, I don't think he has on that same caliber as Leon Edwards does. But he does have power because, again, we saw what he was able to do. We know Leon Edwards has power in his kicks because we've seen what happened with Kamaru Usman, and we know what that Kamaru Usman has power in his hands because we saw what he was able to do to Jorge Masvidal. So this is going to be a very, very interesting fight, guys. Again, this is basically to close the book on all of it. They're both one apiece. This is going to go into now in Leon Edwards' territory over there in London. I'm sure he's going to have the home field advantage, but, we've been looking at the interviews where you see Kamaru Usman pretty much saying that, hey, this is his home turf as well and such. I don't feel like that's necessarily true, being the fact that Leon Edwards is actually from the UK. So, yeah, I feel it's going to be definitely more of the home advantage for Leon Edwards. So let's break this down. How is Kamaru Usman going to win? Well, I personally feel like he needs to use his grappling. He really does. If he can actually keep it close, if he can make Leon Edwards very uncomfortable, if he can make Leon Edwards not, if he could close the distance on Leon Edwards, then yeah, he can actually get the victory. You do not want to scrap. You do not want to make this into a striking fight with Leon Edwards because I really do feel like Leon Edwards has the ability to win if this stands up. With Kamaru Usman, he has the ability to win with the wrestling. He has the ability to take Leon Edwards down. I don't feel like Leon Edwards' ground game is better than Kamaru Usman's. If this was like a wrestling match, I do feel like even though probably in the earlier rounds that he might have a bit tougher time to take Leon Edwards down, but I do feel like he has the cardio because he's so much used to it. You got to remember, Kamaru Usman was once a grappler, a heavy on the wrestling. He came from wrestling as well, but he just started learning and falling in love with his striking when he went over there with Trevor Whitman out in Colorado. And that's when we saw him use his hands a lot more against Kobe Covington and Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. And we see what he was able to do and how he was able to develop and such as a champion. So yeah, but I do feel like obviously he has a much higher grappling pedigree than Leon Edwards. And if he can make it very uncomfortable, if he can actually keep up that cardio and keep up that rhythm, and make it very difficult for Leon Edwards to get off any kind of striking, and make him like second guess, like, do I really want to throw this kick because I'm just gonna get taken down again? Do I really want to throw this punch because he's probably gonna take me down again? Do I really want to get that close because I could possibly get taken down again? Or he mixes in the boxing as well, because again, Kamaru Usman does have some really good hands, and he's able to box him because Leon Edwards is constantly thinking of the wrestling. If he can constantly keep Leon Edwards guessing, then yeah, I could definitely see Kamaru Usman cruising to a victory in a 5-round fight. I don't see anybody really getting knocked out. That's my personal opinion, but I could be wrong. But I don't personally see that. So that's a way how Kamaru Usman can actually get a victory. How Leon Edwards could get a victory is if he can be able to nullify, to pretty much stop the ground game of Kamaru Usman. Then I could definitely see him, sticking on the outside, using the jab, using those legs, using those kicks, and making Kamaru Usman always guess, constantly guessing. Is he going to throw this leg kick? Is he going to throw that leg kick? Because that's something that I'm sure Leon Edwards is really thinking in his head. Like, hey, this guy's going to possibly think of a knockout because he just got knocked out. And it's very difficult to come back from that. Not a lot of fighters come back the same. Some do and some don't. Some people get knocked out and they're just completely different. Now they know they've been knocked out and they don't want to go through that again. Then others want to constantly show other people, show the world that they're not identified by that knockout. They're not, known for that knockout. It's like, hey, you know what? It happened. It is what it is. I got caught. I'm going to come back stronger from that. And some people can actually do that. Well, in this case, we do not know, but I have a feeling that Leon Edwards is really going to push the pace when regarding the leg kicks, regarding the striking, regarding all these things, because I do feel like he has a better advantage when it comes to being on the feet. I really do feel like that. And if he can really stick and move, if he can really make it uncomfortable for Kamaru Usman, if he can really stop those takedowns and make it very difficult for Kamaru Usman to take him down, then it could possibly win a decision. Now, we also got to remember and take into account that, yes, Kamaru Usman was pretty much dominating Leon Edwards in that second fight, but we also got to remember the fact that Leon Edwards was training in elevation, where Kamaru Usman's used to that elevation training. He's used to that. He trains in Colorado, so he's used to having all that elevation training. And when they went into that second fight over there, I believe it was in Utah, Salt Lake City. Leon Edwards wasn't used to that. He's used to training over there in the UK, where there's really no elevation training over there. So when he went into the cage with Kamaru Usman in the second fight, he was done. Like, he just couldn't get his bearings. He really couldn't, get his game going. He couldn't get his body moving the way he wanted to move. And a lot of it had to do with elevation. Elevation played a big factor in that. So now, with this fight being in the UK, are we actually going to see a different Leon Edwards? Are we going to be able to see Leon Edwards get off his striking a little bit more, be a lot more technical, be a lot more fluent, be a lot more, being able to take down Kamaru Usman himself? Because we saw he had success with the takedowns as well. He had success in that first round in the second fight. So maybe, who knows, Kamaru Usman could actually be in a surprise where Leon Edwards actually does the wrestling himself, and he actually shows that, hey, I can wrestle too. I have great ground game as well. So that could actually play a big factor for Leon Edwards in this fight too. Now that the fact that the fight's in his hometown, the fight is not in elevation, to where he's now not having to worry about gassing or his body not cooperating. Now, I'm sure he's had a great training camp. I'm sure he now has the taste of having the championship, and he doesn't want to let that go. So yeah, there's a quite possibility that Leon Edwards can actually get this victory as well, with the confidence, with the striking, and with the possibility of the difference with not the fight not being in elevation. So that all that plays a factor. So now what I want to ask you guys is, what happens if this person wins? So what happens if Kamaru Usman wins? Well, if Kamaru Usman wins, this actually closes the chapter. 100%, the fight is done. The welterweight division is kind of, there really isn't no real strong number one contender. I guess you could go with Hamzat Chimaev, but we do remember back in September last year, Hamzat Chimaev couldn't make weight for that Nate Diaz fight. You can say whatever you want to say and such like that, use whatever excuses you want to use regarding that, but unfortunately he did not make weight. So do we give him a title shot after knowing that fact, after the fact that he did not make weight for a highly publicized fight? I don't know. It's very hard to say because right now he's kind of out. He's kind of like basically gone quiet. Like we haven't heard him do very many interviews. We've seen his coach do the interviews, but we haven't heard much from him. So we don't not sure. There's a lot of possibilities of him moving up to middleweight, which I feel like is a safe move for him to do. But who knows? It could. I don't see it out of the realm of possibility that Hamza Chimaev gets a title shot, because I know a lot of the UFC is definitely big on him and they definitely love him, and he's a great personality and he's a very fun fighter to watch. And he's a fresh new face within the title shot reign, because you look at Kamaru Usman, who's already defended his belt against Colby Covington, against Jorge Masvidal, and against Gilbert Burns, who are your top level contenders right now. Not everybody's going to want to see that. Not everyone's going to want to see those fights again. Maybe Gilbert Burns, depending on how he if he wins against Jorge Masvidal, because that's a big task. Jorge Masvidal is no punk. Regardless of how he's looked as of late, he is still a very tough challenger. And they're fighting out in April, I guess that's what, UFC 287, I want to say. So with that being said, we do not know if Kamaru Usman just so happens to get this victory. It's up for grabs. Plus, you never know regarding himself, because he's already had talked about retirement and all, and with his body and such. There's a lot to discuss regarding that. So with him possibly winning again, could be a Hamza Chimaev, could be that Shavkat Rakhmonov. Excuse me if I'm messing up that name, but he came off a victory over Jeff Neal, and I feel like he still need work his way up the ladder. There's still a lot of big names he should be facing. He's only faced a couple of good guys here and there, somewhere in the top 10. He needs to go face some of these guys in the top 5. If he were to go against a possible Hamza, go against a Gilbert Burns, a Jorge Masvidal, or even a Colby Covington, and he gets a victory over one of those guys, then I could definitely see a title shot for him for sure, 100%. So with that being said, what about Leon Edwards? What happens if Leon Edwards wins? Well, everything opens. It's all, fair game now. You could go against Gilbert Burns. You could go against Colby Covington. You could go against Hamza Chimaev. We remember back when COVID happened around and Leon Edwards couldn't get a fight. Leon Edwards was the only one that was open to fight Hamza Chimaev. I believe they accepted the fight on two times. I believe they were trying to get that fight together, but then just with COVID and with all kinds of course, with the world going on the way it was at that time, it was just very difficult to make that fight happen. So, of course, the fight fell through, and those fights didn't even transpire. You still got Bilal Muhammad. He's up there as a big contender. He's making a lot of noise for himself as well. We remember that fight that they had, I want to say, back in 2021. It was going decent, but then I believe it was in the second round where he got that eye poke, Bilal Muhammad, and he just could not continue. So, you never know. Maybe he's one fight away from possibly getting that shot as well. But let's not forget, guys, we got Jorge Masvidal versus Gilbert Burns, April. I'm not sure exactly the date, but UFC 287. We got a possibility where we could finally squash another beef, where we got Jorge Masvidal, if he can get past Gilbert Burns, he can face Leon Edwards for the title, and we can finally see this whole revenge, this whole grudge match take place with this whole 3-piece in Minnesota back in 2019. I want to say back around March, maybe around that time frame. They were fighting over there in the UK, I believe, and if you guys look at the YouTube and you look at if you remember this, look at some of the highlights. Jorge Masvidal was doing an interview, and then Leon Edwards walks by, and then Jorge Masvidal walks up on him, gives him a little 3-piece and a soda, and that's it. That was the end of that. No, we never got to see a fight. We never got to see these two fight. I believe they were booked to fight, but then Jorge Masvidal, I believe, was hurt at the time. This was probably later on, a couple years later. I want to say that was probably in 2021, 2022, somewhere around that time frame. I remember hearing something about that, but the fight never transpired. The fight never went through. But now this is a possibility. If Leon Edwards does get a victory, and if Jorge Masvidal gets a victory, that could fight actually very well take place. And I would, let's not hate on it. Right now, it cannot take place because Jorge Masvidal is coming off quite a few losses. He's lost to Colby Covington. He's lost twice to Kamaru Usman. No shame on that, because these guys are the champions and the #1 contenders. So, hey, it's no shame on it, but you can't get a title shot on that. Right now, he's going against Gilbert Burns, and that's going to be a fun fight. I can't wait to see that fight. But if Jorge Masvidal does win, if Leon Edwards does win, that's one hell of a fight that can finally take place, a grudge match that can finally take place. Now, on next, what happens if they lose? Well, again, Kamaru Usman, he was right up there. He was by far ready to tie the record for, I want to say, most fights or unbeaten record. I can't remember exactly what record he was trying to tie with Anderson Silva, but unfortunately, Leon Edwards stopped that from happening. He is definitely going to be considered one of the greatest welterweights of all time. He's had, I believe, 5 title defenses. He is one hell of an action-packed fighter. He is definitely a legend in the game, 100%. I've enjoyed his fights. Definitely enjoyed all of his fights, I should definitely say. But with that being said, if he loses, I don't know how much longer he has left. He might not, especially if he loses by knockout. If he loses by knockout, I can definitely see Kamaru Usman retiring. If he loses by decision, I can see him possibly either maybe wanting to move up in middleweight, because who knows, maybe the weight is just not, he is getting older. I believe he's going to be 36 very soon. And maybe just the weight cutting is just not, it's not cooperating with his body no more. But we do hear a lot regarding his body. We hear a lot about his knees. We hear a lot about his, regarding his cardio, how his conditioning is very hard because he has a lot of trouble with his legs and his overall body. The guy has been competitor for a long time. So yeah, it's been very difficult on him, very challenging on him. And who knows, maybe he actually can take some time off, take some time off and heal. Take a whole year off. He's been the champion for a long time. Like I said, he's been a champion since, I want to say, 2018? Or excuse me, 2019, I want to say. He defended the belt multiple times. He's never really taken any time really legit off. He's always had a fight. He's never really had like an official 1 year just completely off and let his body rest and maybe go through the surgeries and go through the process of healing. So that could be definitely something to think about, because he still, is it old? No, but is it a little bit older to be in the welterweight division? Kind of. Like I said, you got monsters out there. You got Khamzat Chimaev, you got Shavkat Rakhmonov. You still got a lot of other contenders out there that are trying to make their way up. So yeah, it could be a possibility for Kamaru Usman to retire, or it could be a possibility for him just take time off and let his body heal. I don't see him fighting a Colby Covington again. We already saw those 2 fights. Don't see him fighting Jorge Masvidal again. We already saw those 2 fights. Possibly Gilbert Burns. Possibly some of these new crazy up-and-comer guys that like I just mentioned. Who knows? But again, I don't think it's going to be 100% the end of the road unless he gets viciously KO'd. If he does, then he might call it a day. You never know. As far as Leon Edwards goes, he's still relatively young, and you never know. He can just work his way back up and possibly get another title shot down the line. You never know. And we can also possibly see that grudge match as well. If they both lose, if Leon Edwards loses and you get Jorge Masvidal losing, then yeah, why not get that fight together? Let's book these 2 guys together and let's finally settle this beef once and for all. I could definitely see that happening. Or I can even see him going against Gilbert Burns, because you got to remember, Leon Edwards went through all of them. He's actually gone through a large list with the welterweights, but he still hasn't won against guys like Khamzat, guys like Jorge Masvidal, guys like Gilbert Burns, and guys like Colby Covington. So there's always those fun matchups where we can have. But as far as that goes, I'm not sure. We don't know what's going to happen. Now, as far as the fight goes, who am I picking? I would have to possibly go Leon Edwards. I believe the elevation did play a factor. I do believe that the fact that now he has this confidence of being a champion, having that confidence of knowing that he can knock out Kamaru Usman, having the confidence of being at home and having his friends and his family there, that it could very possibly play in his favor. So I do feel like Leon Edwards can actually edge this out. Nothing against Kamaru Usman. I do feel like he is still one hell of a champion. Definitely one of the greatest welterweights of all time. But I do feel Leon Edwards has just a little bit more edge in this fight. So guys, let me know in the comments of what you think regarding this fight. UFC 286, Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. They finally settled the trilogy. Can't wait to see it. Guys, let me know in the comments. Like,